Good afternoon, everybody. This is Dr. Betty, and I am here with Amanda Taylor, and we are the Dream Team. And we've been talking about imposter syndrome, and we've been talking about uh, not just as an entrepreneur, but really in your life and in your business. I remember when I had my very first company, and we went ahead and did so much. And then to go to the next company, I thought, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to duplicate this? And then the same thing as I went from one part of my journey, my leadership journey, to the next part of the leadership journey. Have you ever felt like that?
100%. I think we all do, no matter where we start and where we're going. It's just, I haven't met anybody who can truly, authentically say, no, I'm good. I'm great. I've never had that problem.
I know, I know. I think women are more into kind of sharing that than men. Men tend to kind of chin up, and although I've helped many entrepreneurs who are in that space, and when things happen, I'm going to be actually having a conversation and doing a keynote and about this particular topic, and I thought that I would just kind of run this by you and by our audience because there's so much that can be done. Uh, if you think about there's a book called Strength to Strength by Arthur Brooks and also John Maxwell. So I'm going to mix up a little bit of John Maxwell, a little bit of Arthur Brooks, and then bring in some just knowledge. And I'd love for you to just step in because I know that in your business you also coach people that do the same thing.
Oh,
So
yeah.
as we go toward in our leadership journey, in our business journey, in our entrepreneurial journey, uh, Arthur Brooks calls it fluid intelligence, but there's an instrument that I used for my dissertation, and we call these instrumental values. And so those are the values that we utilize as instruments throughout our career. And those are, the quick thinking and the problem solving and strategic drive and just really trying to get to achieve something. And then at the end, when we get to the end of our career, end of our life, we call those terminal values. And this is the Rokish values instrument that I use for my dissertation. And then he calls this like crystallized intelligence. And so that's kind of when you begin to have that wisdom and the discernment. And then when you begin to really think about, okay, why am I doing this? And what am I going to teach and what am I going to guide? And so the first curve is your very first time that you make it, and then the second curve is the next part of your life. And it could be that you have a one curve at the very beginning of your career and then you have many curves after, or it could be one long curve and then in the middle of your life then you say, okay, what do I do now? I just left this company, or they just laid me off, or I just sold my company and now what do I do? I had a gentleman call me and say, hey, I made this company into this multi-million dollar company. What do I do now? Do I sell it or do I merge with somebody else? And then that's where we either make a lot of mistakes or bring in the right team of people and expand it or whatever. um, and all of a sudden success is not enough. What we wanted was significance, and that was the case in my life as a young executive. I was actually I led thousands of people and managed billions of dollars and all of that, but there was something that happened and something clicked when I started moving into the second curve kind of mentality, where all of a sudden, what was really important was uh, not the success, not the titles, not the corner office, but really I was looking more for significance. So, what do you think? How often do you find clients like this?
I think that comes at every stage. You talk about starting your first company. And I found myself saying this out loud and hadn't been able to articulate it before. Just a few weeks ago, I was being interviewed for a magazine, and I started in, real estate investing as someone's assistant less than 5 hours a week. I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew I was organized and I could help with paperwork. And, it grew from there. Obviously, I have my own company, I have my own portfolios, I do my own things. I learned everything I could. But even in starting that company and then building another one, I always thought of myself as the employee, as the assistant, as the doer, as the worker bee. And that was such a hard transition for me mentally to go from I'm the doer to I'm the owner. I'm the decider. I am the overseer. And it was hard for me to accept that position. Like, oh, I am qualified to do these things. I can step into this role. I do know what I'm doing, because we so often put ourselves in that box of what we assume our strengths are or what we've always done, and we don't allow ourselves. We're in this cage that we actually have the key for, and we could just turn around and unlock it if we wanted to.
I love that. I love that. We put ourselves in the cage and we have the key inside of it. All we need to do is just turn it around and just unlock it.
Yeah.
Um, I
And
remember,
significance is key. I've found, you start the dream with, I'm going to make, like you said, I'm going to make all this money and I'm going to have this house and I'm going to do these things. And now my goal is impact. I want to change as many people's lives as possible. I want to change the paradigm of what it means to be wealthy in this country. Like, I have a mission and a passion, and that really doesn't have anything to do with where I live, what I do, how much money I have in my bank account.
yeah,
It's a byproduct,
it
but
is a byproduct and you've already made it. And so now it's about, okay, who am I becoming? So it's not, people ask me when I first retired. I've retired twice from banking and many times from entrepreneurship, because I've either bought a company, sold a company, let go of a company, merged, and so forth. And so people always ask what's next. But when I finally got to the second curve kind of a mentality, my question wasn't what's next, but who am I becoming? And that seems to be kind of the foundation for what I do now is who am I becoming? Who do I choose to have as my clients? And and so escaping that striver's curse that uh, Arthur Brooks talks about. So the striver's curse is exactly that. It's kind of a curse that you're always striving, you're always going, okay, what's next? What's next? Is it nice? Is it good enough?
yeah, when is it enough?
When
Hmm.
is it enough? And I was asked that by my cousin, may she rest in peace. And I remember her asking me, hey, Betty, when is it enough? When are you going to have enough? When are you going to be enough? When is it enough? Um, I've seen in boardrooms, in politics, even in ministry, where you're just looking and striving for that applause or for that attaboy or for that uh, trophy or the accolades. You see it, and you see it a lot on social media. Hey, I just got this award, and look at this award, and look what I got, and then all of a sudden there is this purpose, this real purpose that begins to emerge, and then again the performance is already there, so you no longer have to prove yourself because you already have that track record of performance. It's about who you become when nobody's watching.
Yeah, that's character. That's who you've built yourself into. And I do think that's just wisdom that comes with experience and living and age. And I think going through a series of yourself, going through a series of businesses, we're all becoming different people through every season of our journey here on this planet. And you're right, you get to that point where I've done it all, not all, but I've done it. And now I know. And now I see things from way up here that I couldn't see before. And that changes how I look at everything. That changes how I react to everything. That changes how I operate with everyone. And it just is a way, I think, you kind of see things from a much higher level, and the things that used to matter don't as much. And it's just a bigger picture view. And time moves faster the further we go. And so it's just the what you view as important, and what you view, like what you value, and the time that we have, what are we going to do with it, not how much are we going to accumulate while we're here.
Completely agree. And this is part of the wisdom of finding someone that is completely aligned with your values, and then looking at something much bigger than you, and then having that person, you know, Michael Gerber, and I mentioned his book E-Myth in our last episode, but Michael talked about being on the business versus being in the business,
Yeah.
and then the alignment also. So two different things. Having alignment is one of the things to really rebuild on your second curve. Let's call it the second curve.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're looking, so how do we rebuild it, right? So how do we do that? And here's what we've learned, or what I've personally learned. The second curve is really, it's almost a season of influence and a season of duplicating ourselves into other people. And so you see a lot of people that are very wise, that have gone through a lot of heartaches, and that put up the shingle of strategic advisor, coach, mentor, you name it. And the thing that I always have looked at for all of my mentors is a track record of performance, because a lot of people will have the education or the shingle, but they won't have the track record of performance. And that's where we become wise because of the mistakes we've made.
100%.
And so it's really a season where we wake up every morning and we say, okay, am I aligned with my values? Am I aligned? Am I investing in the next generation? Am I becoming the best wife for my husband, woman for my, or mother for my children, the best coach, the best advisor for my business clients? And what would I be proud of at the end of my life, right? The pandemic happened, and I remember sitting there and thinking, the pandemic is not going to be here for the rest of our lives. And so what am I going to be proud of at the end of the pandemic, that I'll be able to look back at this time or this season and be proud of who I am and be proud of who I was? It's almost like that, but in life. And it's almost like an opportunity for us to really take a look at our life from a totally different perspective, understanding our mortality,
Yeah.
understanding that you only get one chance at life, or at least at this life anyway.
Yeah.
Some people believe in different lives, but you only get one chance at this life. And so how do we take a look at that, right?
Yeah, it's interesting you said that, talking about what will I be proud of. So you're taking yourself out of your current situation and whatever you think you are lacking or don't have, and you look at it from fast forward, looking back, and say, what can I do now, no matter what, to make my future self proud? I've written a letter from my future self, or whatever, backwards, or I'm so glad that you did this. Good for you for sticking with it, and it's an exercise in just taking yourself out of where you are, and out of where you are and the things that you are dragging you down, and putting you in a perspective of having overcome this. And now look at how proud you are of yourself, and what's it going to take to get there. And now let's operate from that perspective. That was a
Yeah.
great point.
And I'll give you a couple of quotable quotes, because as we think about what's most important, right? We can say becoming whole or having equilibrium in our lives, right? Or bringing homeostasis into our environment. And what is it that's going to take that? And it doesn't matter if you have $100 million in the bank or if you have, $50,000 in the bank. The question is always the same. The question is, am I becoming whole? Is love stronger than leverage? Is peace more potent than position? And am I living with a quiet truth in my mind? And where does that quiet truth or that quiet equilibrium and that wisdom come from? It almost comes from alignment. And I think the magic word here is true alignment, and not just in alignment with ourselves, with our core values, but really bringing everyone around us in alignment. So, Amanda, you and I hit it off right away.
Yeah.
Why? Because you're a woman of your word. You do what you say you're going to do. You really put your clients first, and that's important to me, is to put our clients first. And you are constantly honing your trade so that you can continuously be the very best for your client. And then if you're not the very best person for your client, then you bring other people who are the best at whatever part of the business it is, but you've got a holistic approach to the way that you look at the client. A long time ago, 10 years ago, I would not have looked at you in the same way. And a lot of us will look at other people that do something similar as competition, rather than standing side by side like we're doing every week now and saying, you know what? There's more than enough business for everyone. Everybody has a different type of personality that they want to do business with, and maybe they want to come to you, or maybe they're too small or too large for me, or too small or too large for you, or too whatever. And so it's that equilibrium that happens when we are aligned, and we're no longer in competition, but we're here to really complement one another.
Yeah. I say collaboration over competition all the time.
Yeah.
No one is everything to everyone, and we have to fill in the gaps where we can to be what we need to be for others. And if that means it doesn't matter. That is the true thing of abundance. Like, yes, there are enough clients for all of us, and I can't get into that headspace either, because this isn't a competition. I have a business that serves my people in my way. You have a business that serves your people in your way. And that's great. Like, what would we do if we only had one of everything in this world? That would be terrible.
So I'm going to sum this up with quotes. So here's the question, and this is the question for those of you who are watching. If your life could be summed up in one quote, what would it be? And I've got a couple of quotes for you to kind of try on for yourself. Would it be the two most important days in your life are the day where you're born and the day you find out why? And that's from Mark Twain. Or maybe the quote could be, well done, good and faithful servant. And you find that in Matthew 25:21 of the Bible. Or maybe it's, I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, I have kept the faith. And that's also in the Bible in 2 Timothy. And so each one of these says something different. And I just wonder what our viewers would say is your quote. Would it be about love? Would it be about purpose? Would it be about influence, impact, faith? What would that quote be? Because that quote will say a lot about where you are right now. Are you in the first curve, which is more transactional in nature, or are you in the second curve, which is more transformational in nature and more looking back at what legacy am I leaving behind and what is the purpose that I have? And so I ask you one last time, what is going to be your quote? And I'll leave you with this. Success is not the finish line. It's the starting point of your real story. And that second curve, that's where your soul takes the lead. So thank you all so much. Thank you for being with us today. And hopefully we have been able to kind of just nudge you a little bit and nudge your heartstrings a little bit, because we talk about performance all the time. We talk about bottom line, we talk about triple bottom line, we talk about PTPP, all kinds of different things in finance when we look at business. But it's really at the end of the day, it's, you know, by their fruit you will know them. What kind of a tree are you building? What kind of a tree are you, and what are you putting into your own tree? So with that, we will say goodbye for now. Thank you so much for being with us today. And this is Dr. Betty and Amanda Taylor. Bye, everyone.
Bye.